Hey guys, Chris Jarvis at Acrylic Pixel here. Today's video is going to be about Destiny, but more specifically its story and how rubbish it is. Sorry I haven't been posting for the last few days. I've got a bit of a throat thing and felt all ill. That's why I've not done my contact lenses. Anyway, Destiny, story, lack of. So I've completed Destiny in that I had to look back and make sure there wasn't any missions that I've missed out, and then thought, oh no, that was the end. That was the end? Really? That cutscene? I won't give away the ending, but there's not much to give away. And then I thought, oh, that was it. And that made me think, well, why was that it? And then I came to a conclusion. Destiny's story is good, but the way it's told isn't good. The one thing that would have fixed that would have been conversation. Now, what do you mean by conversation would have fixed Destiny? Are you saying that we should have talked about Destiny? What I mean by conversation is that there is one conversation presented in the game, and that is when the lady with the robe talks to Dinklebot and you in a sort of a three-way conversation. That conversation isn't very long at all, but that's the only conversation that's in the game as far as I can see. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about the bit with the Queen and the brother that's weird? Well, those weren't really conversations. That was the brother talking to you not really saying anything, the Queen talking to you, the brother talking to the Queen, and then the Queen talking to you. They're just saying things. It's not a conversation. You actually have to converse to have a conversation, which means what one person is saying actually has to have an impact and change what you were going to say, or at least your retort would be based on what they said. What was in Destiny was just a series of lines, unfortunately, and it was bad. It was dry, and what would have made it better would have been more conversations. Right from the very beginning, the first thing that Dinklebot says is, I bet you've got many questions. What were those questions? We never heard the questions, and more importantly, we never heard the answers to those questions. What would have been a great jumping off point for the game would have been your character asking questions, because what that would do to the player would be give them a jumping off point. So by your character asking questions, it gives you more of an insight as to what they knew up until that point, whilst at the same time Dinklebot can converse back to you, the player who's asked those questions, and then they can fill in the gaps for the character, but for you, you're being told the whole story. That is a great storytelling mechanic, which was either deliberately deleted or completely glazed over, but it's just something that seemed quite obvious to me. The other thing would have been meeting the Queen. Now, I know people would think, yeah, but she's all royal and she doesn't have to talk to people, and, you know, she's just a queen and she's weird, and the brother was weird and the whole thing was weird, so I liked the weirdness. No, the weirdness was good, and the whole not talking to each other directly but talking to you through them was kind of good, but it would have been way more effective if there had been a sandwich of conversation either side of that, or at least Dinklebot giving you some background, like this might be weird, watch this. He seemed to know quite a lot about everything else. At the end, the ending, I'm not going to give anything away, but that woman just talks at you and you're just stood there like a lemon, just going, yeah, Dinklebot gets you to do all these things and your player never asks why. And there's a good chunk of loading time that would be properly well spent giving you some story. Another counter-argument to the whole Destiny story is people don't want to be spoon-fed stories. And there's loads of stuff to read up on the Grimoire notes, which you pick up by killing things and going places, and it's all on Bungie.net, and it's a good read. I prefer it in a Once Upon a Time there was a baseball the size of a small planet that visited Earth, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I think where Bungie went wrong is the fact that their last series of Halo was such a success that they didn't incorporate that into the story, in that they should have known that people would have compared the two. I certainly did. And there are huge comparisons that you can draw. Cortana, Dinklebot, the Traveller, the big Halo things, the fact that there are aliens. So there's, comparisons there which are good. But the comparison, if you're not going to tell a story as good as Halo, there's something wrong. I could tell that Bungie tried to add a lot of RPG elements which were a bit hit and miss, because the RPG elements seem to have been put in to try and make the player go, oh, this is a bit like an RPG. One of the reasons why RPG elements exist was because of a lack of technology, in that a lot of things were written as opposed to a character speaking. What I'm trying to say is, if you're going to have a next-gen experience, you're going to have a next-gen storytelling mechanic, which there just wasn't. It seemed to be a stripped-down version of an RPG. It didn't feel like a next-gen story experience. It definitely felt like a step backwards. So my one thing which would have changed that would have been conversation. Dinklebot having a conversation with your character, you talking to, even the big bosses. Sometimes the big bosses, as they're fighting you, they'll talk and they'll say, or there'll be a cutscene and they'll explain why they're doing something. Sort of in an evil James Bond villainy sort of way, which there was literally none of. There was some laughing from some of the bosses, and then apart from that, just absolute nothing at all. One of the bits in the story where, right early on, you've got to grab a sword, which is this mystical sword that the Fallen used to wipe out loads of Guardians. That is a great story. The fact that you get this sword and these princes are trying to stop you getting the sword was a perfect opportunity for there to have been some dialogue like, oh no, you've got the sword, we love that sword, or I'm the prince that's protecting the sword, I really want to protect the sword because it's in my culture. Just some suggestions. I'm not saying do that, but would have been better. My little rendition there would have been better. So yeah, conversations would have fixed Destiny. Hopefully they'll be able to get some more in the future. So as I say, check out all the written stuff that's on Bungie.net. If you've got the Destiny app, there's all that notes on there, and it gives you a whole load of backstory which seems to have been cut out. And you can sort of see the narrative arc, if you like. If you like the video, like, comment, share and subscribe, all of that stuff. So, bye.